Take you off the screen. What is up, guys? Hey, I know you saw Eric 815 LSX Swaps in the back. He is our guest host this week, guys. We're going to have a ton of fun. Him and I have been putting topics together for the last several days about what we're going to talk about in this episode 3 of the DragNDrive show. We're going to recap 2022 DragNDrive events. We're going to talk about the growth of the channel and where it's headed, what we're going to do, what we've done, all that kind of stuff. We also talk about Brian Lohnes' podcast about the 92 Streetcar Shootout, Hot Rod Magazine event. Love that thing. It was amazing. We're going to talk about Ken Block here in a minute. And then Eric has some questions for me at the end of the show about the channel and kind of myself and all that kind of stuff. And then let's just go right now and thank our newest partner, Racing Junk Classifieds. Guys, this is going to be a really, really fun example of how people can get involved with the brand and then how we can maybe help you grow as well. The Racing Junk stuff is going to be awesome. We are actually talking to them, trying to see if we can put maybe a DragNDrive's clickable part in there. So we'll see if we can do that. But as part of that, we're going to have some, what we found on Racing Junk and things like that as we go, probably monthly, maybe even bi-weekly, something like that. I will tell you this, there is a ton of parts and cars and everything. It was so hard. I probably spent, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours the last day and a half to try and find something. And I really didn't even find what I wanted for this show here. So what I do want to say is take notes or make notes while we're going through here, because we'll stop at the end of kind of every segment and break and go back to the comments if there are any questions or anything like that. And then we're going to talk about the PRI Magazine having DragNDrive in it and all that kind of stuff. There's so a huge show. I'm planning about 2 hours. I don't know how long Eric is going to stay. He said he was feeling a little sickly, but I think the adrenaline is starting to pump and getting out there. But before we get started, guys, I want to thank Sweet Patina. They have signed up for 2022 to sponsor the Built for DragNDrive segment. They have signed up again for 2023. So it's exciting to have them on here as part of the group and all that kind of stuff. So let's jump into, let's bring Eric on. And if you don't know who Eric is, he can tell you who he is. And then we'll jump right into the show. Dude, what's up?
What's happening?
Man, nothing. I need a drink of this Cayman Jack margarita. So why don't you tell them who you are and a quick recap of the channel and stuff like that.
All right. I am Eric White, and I am the creator of 815 LSX Swaps. We've been on YouTube for a couple years now. You can see two of my personal builds here in the background, 240SX 53 T56, and a twin turbo Fox body Mustang that I'm currently building now. We do DIY videos. We go to PRI and cover events. We got a website, we got a podcast, we got a blog. We're just all over in the racing community, and we're hoping to keep that growing.
Yeah, dude, you and I have actually been talking about you attending more events, and obviously, I'm pushing you towards DragNDrive events because that's our passion, man. It's what we love. I want to say, you'll see Facebook user come up like this sometimes. These are folks that are in the DragNDrive addiction group. If you scroll to the bottom of the description, it will say, give StreamYard permission to use your name on these live streams. So anyways, thank you to all the folks that are in the DragNDrive addiction. We're 9,600 people in that group. We've grown it from, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too, but from just around 4,200 people to over 9,000, 9,600 and something as of right now. So it's pretty exciting to have that many folks obviously following what we're doing, but then also the Facebook group is great because, Facebook groups, everybody can run through and ask questions and comment and all that kind of stuff. So I see a bunch of folks popping in here. All right. So let's set some ground rules here. We'll run through some comments, or we'll run through some topics, and then we'll go back to the comments. So Eric and I will be kind of putting those on the screen as we come through if it fits. And then also going back to those as we move through the topics. All right, dude, you ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
I think first we talk about the hat you're wearing and Ken Block. I feel like losing him is a big blow to the car community. So tell us your story with Ken Block, and then I think we have a moment of silence for him and his family.
I just remember watching, the Gymkhana videos when he
Hmm.
started doing all that stuff, and I remember being excited for when those come out. They drop at like midnight and stay up all night to watch those, and it was
Yeah.
just incredible the the way that he could drive and handle a car. That I know he's not a big part of the drag and drive stuff, but
Yeah.
everybody in the automotive community has at least heard of who Ken Block is. So I believe he made an impact on all the automotive community.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, let's give a few moments of silence here for him and his family. All right, I do want to say I can't imagine what they're going through, and our deepest condolences are out to them and his extended family from there. The whole tribe of Hoonigan people. I mean, there's far reaching effects of his situation and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, on to other things. Let's talk about this new PRI magazine because I'm kind of excited. Because I'm in it. My name, Michael Narks, is actually in this article written by Bradley Iger. And guys, I've been screaming it very loudly for a long time that DragNDrive is going mainstream. This is huge. Obviously, Sick the Mag has its own standalone magazine, 200-page books, basically every 3 or 4 months. But this is a big deal for all of us that are in the DragNDrive community because there are people like I was talking to at PRI that didn't even know what DragNDrive was. Well, they're going to get this and they're going to see the front cover here with a, first 67 Camaro pulling a trailer. I mean, that's a Harbor Freight trailer, $300 trailer back then. This was 2021 for Drag Week. And I mean, literally in big bold print, it says DragNDrive right on the front. So I think that's going to really help push us forward. And then I just want to talk about the article real quick because it is from a promoter standpoint, which is great for the people that are typically reading this magazine. So if you guys haven't seen my pictures from earlier, Mark Grote in the Gremlin takes the cover page with Road Trippers as the title. It talks about Drag Week and where it starts and all that kind of stuff. And then we move through. You can see our buddy Dave Teresi, Jamie Dollar. There's a picture. You got all of our friends from Rocky Mountain Race Week here. I don't know which track that is, but I think that's probably, I don't know. Scott Guthrie's car has looked the same for so long. So it's pretty awesome to go through here. They talked to Matt Frost. They talked to Hyde with Midwest Drags. They talked to Dustin Watts with Miles of Mayhem. And they talked to, McGann. Here we go. John McGann, who is the editor in chief at Hot Rod Magazine, who obviously he has a big part to do with Drag Week. And then me, which is really interesting. So I have just a small little line there in the kind of towards the bottom at the back of the article, but talking about how many people have entered. We have more than 600 people in 2019, and now we're more than almost 2,000 people entered in 2022. And guys, there's numbers that I'm going to go over here in a minute about a 2022 recap and 2023 that we're going to see. It's going to blow your mind. But anyways, I want to say PRI Magazine having the DragNDrive on the cover is pretty awesome. It's 7 pages of coverage in there, 7 pages of article.
That's pretty cool.
Magazine. Yeah. So
and it's funny that Brad is the same person that did my article back in the November edition. So
yeah, and
we're
in
always,
that you
we're
talk
always in the
about.
same.
Well, it's funny you talk about what to do, what not to do at PRI, and then you didn't do any of the stuff you suggested.
Right.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, it's just funny that we always end up in the same place regardless. So
Yeah.
same writer, same magazine. So
Yeah.
we're always in the same place.
Right. Your feet are going to hurt at the end of PRI is what he's saying. And no matter what shoes you're wearing and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty neat, but I do want to jump right into some 2022 information, kind of a recap. Now, what you guys don't know is that Eric hasn't attended a full drag. He hasn't participated in a full DragNDrive yet. He is, I'm wearing him down slowly. So I will say he has plans to attend Sick Summer as a media consultant maybe for some DragNDrive stuff, but also for 815 LSX swaps. simply because I can't be there. I'll be attending the autocross week that week. So, all right, let's talk about 2022 because there are some really neat numbers that go into 2022 and the recap of it, right? So everybody talks about the fast cars, everybody knows all that stuff, but did you know that there were 1,832 entries into DragNDrive events that were on tech sheets for events for 2022? That's pretty awesome in my sense because 1,800 people is more than triple the 600 people that came out in 2019. So I keep going back to 2019 because you can't really count 2020 because we only had Rocky Mountain events, but it's bittersweet for 2020 because without 2020, we wouldn't have Race Week, which is Rocky Mountain 2.0 put on by Matt and June and Adam. So would we have seen the growth that we've seen in 21 and 22 going into 23 without Drag Week and Midwest Drags canceling, in turn getting Matt to do 2 events in 2020. So it's really interesting.
So of those 1,800, how many actually finished?
1572, which is, I mean,
That's
it goes right along. Yeah, it goes right along with the normal amount you would think of the attrition that we see across most of the events. I will say, Sick Week I think had the highest attrition last year, and it's really probably just because people had come off of a year that they weren't ready for Sick Week necessarily. So they had pushed their car to the limit at the events they were at. Then Sick Week comes and is available, right? Everybody wants to go. It's a new event. Well, this year will be completely different, I feel like, for Sick Week because people are planning for Sick Week. People have built cars specifically for Sick Week. So I want to jump in here. So we got 1,830 cars or 30 entries. So it's 86% completion rate, which is about normal for what we see across all of the events. So it's pretty awesome. And then, so 1,572 people finished. We do have, and I'll say this again in a minute, we do have a I Survived a DragNDrive 2022 sticker coming. That will be available in the next couple of days. And then there were 14 events for 2022, which is obviously more than we've ever had in the history of these events. There were, the first 10 years of Drag Week, there was only one event per year. So I can't see, from what I see, there's not a lot of others. There was a drag weekend, but only one. But one thing that I found really, really cool was we actually visited 38 different tracks in 2022 for DragNDrive events. Everybody talks about you've got to get out to your track. You've got to go. Think about that. There's some of these tracks that, I mean, I'm not going to say they wouldn't be open without us, but it's got to help, right? It's got to help.
Yeah, and that number is only going to get bigger with all the events that are coming here in 2023. So, yeah, that's a lot of tracks. So, and where I'm at, there's just a couple around me that are usually on sick week or sick summer and Midwest drags. But yeah, I mean, there's 38 tracks that had DragNDrive events this year. That's incredible.
It's pretty awesome to think that, and a lot of times these are middle of the week events. So like this is a bonus for these tracks. These are extra money in the concession stands, in the, in the ticket booth, all that kind of stuff. Is this extra eyes at the track to come see these racers and things like that. We got this Facebook user saying, I can speak for a few bike guys. We're pumped and appreciate all events adding bike classes. That's a huge plus. It's amazing to, I think as we grow, right, we'll see more of that kind of interesting, neat stuff. There's actually another event I'm going to talk about later that has a new spin on stuff that I'm really excited to be a part of. And then Jeff here says, Sick Week is definitely tough to get ready and test for coming from the northern states. Yes, for sure. That is because you have no time to test if you finish your car in November in Ohio or in Illinois, like where you are. I mean, dude, where would you test? You'd have nowhere to test because the tracks are closed.
Right. There's nothing around.
Yeah, that's crazy. So some interest. Go ahead.
So whoever that Facebook user is needs to poke you a little bit about getting some data on bike classes for DragNDrive. That's something
Yeah,
that you don't have right now, do you?
right. We do not currently have a list of motorcycle racers. I am building it, but I will tell you, there's only about 5 names so total that have ever raced a motorcycle in a drag and drive event. So it's interesting to, where do you make a list because you have the segment? Do you only put 5 people on that list? Like how do you make that make sense? So we're working through that. I think we will have one for 2023 season. I don't know if I'll have one for 2022. All right. So some interesting racer numbers here that I wanted to talk about. This is where I get a little bit nerdy. There were 4 racers that completed 4 events. So out of 1,572 racers, 4 of those racers, okay, Cameron Thorpe is the only person to complete 4 national events. Okay. His best average 10, 5, 11 at Sick Week. And then this is a really cool stat that I wish we could maybe get the interest of some fuel companies, but he drove 11,000 miles, almost 12,000 miles to get to and compete in drag and drive events in 2022. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was going to be my question. Does that
Yeah.
include driving to the events and
Yeah.
back? So
Yep.
that's not just drive time in the car itself.
Yeah. Yep. And so you got to think if he did 4 national events, the average national event mileage is 1,000 miles, let's say. I mean, he put 4,000 miles on his car and raced at 20 tracks during the year, 20 different tracks, or probably 14 or 15 different tracks throughout the year in the Volvo wagon with the LSA on it. Love that car. It's amazing. He is always a top contender in the 11.0 index class on the Rocky Mountain event. I think he just went all out and sent it on Sick Week. So
So
pretty
when you think
amazing.
about
Go ahead.
so when you think about wear and tear on the car, that's one thing. But
Yep.
now think about your tow vehicle, your trailer.
Mm-hmm.
4 events. That's what 8,000 ish
Yep.
miles that you put on a tow vehicle. So now you
Yep.
gotta do maintenance on that, and you got fuel costs there. I mean,
Yep.
that stuff adds up quick.
Well, and for guys like Rovic, who's from the Yukon, I mean, he put more than 30,000 miles on his rigs getting to and from the 3 events that he did because he was so far away. Now he has one in his backyard with the BC Drag It Challenge. So it's kind of exciting to see these events begin to spread, go. What's wild is Hot Rod Magazine is in California, but yet everything they do is east of the Mississippi almost,
Right.
What's up with that, guys? So Danny Fatka, what's a tow vehicle? Hey, listen, don't be talking about Rich Guido in here now. So, and that's the other thing too. You start talking about oil changes and all that kind of stuff for your race car, but then also for all of your drag and drive or your tow rig and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty neat. And congrats to Cameron for sure. I mean, it's amazing to complete 4 national events. It just, attends to his ability to build a really nice race worthy car. 36 racers completed 3 events, 168 racers completed 2 events, and then 1,112 racers only completed 1 event in 2022. How does that strike you? Does that seem weird to you? What's that number going to be like? Is it going to be a bigger percentage for 23? What are we going to see? Are we going to see folks doing a national event and a regional event? I don't know.
I think so, because I think as drag and drive gets bigger, it's gonna be more difficult to get into some of these events. I mean, like
Yeah.
what, Six Summer sold out in like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, these events, they're selling out, and they're selling out quick. So if you're not prepared to get in, it's not that you don't want to go, you might not just be able to get into it.
Well, and I
But I'd
think
be
that's
curious to see how many drivers have raced in an event and then done like road week or sick ward because maybe they couldn't
yeah.
get in. So that would be an interesting fact on how many people competed in an event and then maybe did one of those sick wards
Yeah.
or road weekers.
Yeah. This is a great comment here. The majority of the hot rod readership was in the Midwest, and the track density won't support it elsewhere, according to Keith Turk, who is the man of Hot Rod Drag Week. He's the dude behind all the stuff, gets everybody
And,
teched and all that kind of stuff.
and when we start talking about that podcast episode, um, that you get a lot of that from that podcast. You
Yep.
you hear a lot of people from Wisconsin, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan. There was a lot of that
Yeah,
stuff right here in the
Detroit,
U.S.
Chicago. Talking about streetcar stuff. Those are
Right.
big streetcar places. Yeah, this is a good comment too. You can't forget about the 6 shootouts that Tom had at PDRA and NMCA events. That's right. The struggle with those is I wish he would have extended those and drove another 50 miles and do 100 miles in 2 days of racing. Man, we'd have had way more events. Anyways, all right. So I thought that was pretty neat. That 1,112 racers only completed one event, and I'm excited to see what that looks like for 2023. So I mentioned earlier we are going to have I survived a DragNDrive decal. I will say the I survived a DragNDrive list. Ooh, say that 3 times fast. Is on the website now, and I'm pulling it up. I'm going to put it in the comments. You can go to DragNDrive.com and just click on the I survived a DragNDrive button. And that will show you every racer that every racer that completed an event in 2022. The benefit is, and let me get my notes back up here. You can search by name, ET, eighth or quarter mile, and national or regional event. So there's literally a ton of data there that we can only put I think 100 racers on one page at a time. So if you're looking for your own name, like Cameron Thorpe, he could actually pull up his 4 passes or his 4 events, and have that data forever, whatever. So, as we continue to grow the page, all of this data becomes historical. Everybody can do all that stuff. But we also have the same list for 2021. So if you completed an event in 21, and I am slowly working my way backwards, the plan would be to have, just go backwards and have every event that has ever been done with something like the I survived a DragNDrive or a DNF list as well for the year, which I'm not doing that for 22 or 21 yet. We may just put an all-time DNF list together. I really don't know yet. So we're going to see on that. I will tell people this is a ton of work to put all of this stuff together. So
I can imagine.
doing all of this, it allows me to kind of nerd out for a minute. And I love the stories that come from Cameron Thorpe. Let's give a great example of his stuff here. So let's pull him up.
So real quick, how far back do you plan on going with these events?
Forever. We'll eventually have a complete historical list of all the stuff. So Cameron has 10.511 average at Sick Week, 10.639 at Drag Week, 11.039 at Race Week, and then 11.219 Race Week, and then Rocky Mountain he did an 11.219. It was literally that easy to pull up his name and get his averages. So here's the biggest benefit to that, in my opinion, is for promoters or announcers that can jump in, like Adam Dory, I think of all the time. He could jump in and see that Cameron had competed in other events very quickly at an event and give them one more level of something to talk about. It also is great for guys like Philip Thomas to be able to go back and look at that data and see who, you could physically track. Now you'd have to do some legwork to do each year because I want to separate it by years, but you could see Michael Narks' time in 2020, Michael Narks' time in 2021, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be on either of those lists because I didn't finish either event. But if I had, it would be on there. But guys like Steve Eden and Pete Holm will be on every one of those because they've competed, in Drag Week and finished every Drag Week they've ever entered. So,
are those lists exportable to like an Excel file or anything?
As of right now, no. You can just copy and paste. So that's the struggle to make it exportable like that. I'm going to need a sponsor to help me come on and handle the backside of that. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to be a Big O sponsor, come on, let's go. I'm ready. I feel like I'm probably one of the hardest working people in DragNDrive, and we're only going to get more and more busy. So there are some questions that we'll answer later on that'll talk about that. So let's move to 2023 stuff. Dude, we talked about how many events. There were 14 events in 2022. As of right now, there are 20 events on my list on DragNDrive.com literally all of them there with links to them. Let me pull that up and put it in the comments as well. Sorry, I should have thought about that earlier. So if you go to the blog page, it's 2 or 3 down because I've written some articles about cars and stuff like that.
20 events is pretty incredible when you think, there's 12 months in a year, and how many of those can we actually race in? You're packing
Yeah.
you're packing a lot of events in a short amount of time, so that gives a lot of people opportunity to attend different events.
Yep. Well, and the other side of that too is the range of these events, like where they're at, the time of the year, things like that. Everybody sees 20 events and goes, "Oh man, it's saturated." But two of the things we haven't talked about, the event that I'm putting on later in the year with some friends. Haven't talked about it yet. We will in a few minutes. Not in depth, but we will. And then King of the Open Road, I only have 2 of their events on there because I know they're going to do a fall and a spring, or a spring and a fall event in 23 for King of the Open Road at Oklahoma City. I don't know what their other events are. Jared and I were messaging the other day talking about it. I've got some other ideas with him to talk about. I think there's something really cool that can happen with the circuit, which is April 14th through 16th, Cruise and Lose, which is Lincoln, Nebraska, April 21st and 22nd, and then a early May, mid-May King of the Open Road event, which would be Oklahoma City. I mean, if that doesn't ring Triple Crown, I don't know what does. I've got to get a hold of him and talk to him. So someone tag him in the comments here, and let's discuss the opportunity that we would have to maybe see if someone wants to compete in all 3 and what that would look like as an award, and I'll go to work. So yeah, I think that's going to be really cool as you begin to see events get close to each other, because even like the circuit sold out, the Cruise and Lose, I think, sold out in 4 hours. And then, King of the Open Road is going to sell out because they have 200 entries and they have 18,000 people on their page. I mean, there's a lot that can happen, and those technically are in the same region, but Joplin, Missouri, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Oklahoma City, if you're doing a weekend deal, are not close at all.
Right.
So, you got 4 weeks or 5 weeks of time there where there's 3 events that are close. It'll be interesting to see how that does and what that means going forward. So anyways, sorry, Triple Crown is coming. I don't know if Devin's event has sold out yet. That's Southeast Street Meet. It most likely has, I would think. They always do really well with it.
So
I'll find out from him.
With 20 events, what are we up to for number of tracks from 38 in 2022?
Dude, this is why me and you are buddies. This is why we're on the same page, bud. We're visiting at least 60 tracks. At least 60 tracks for 2023. If we had 4 or 5 more events, like you're talking, I mean, we could be almost 70 different tracks. Not 70 different tracks, because some of those will overlap, but 70 track days for drag and drive events is huge. I mean, think about that. That could really stimulate, and that could stimulate a track's revenue greatly, if the promoter will do it right. And I think that's what so today, the guys on the West Buck show were talking about drag and drive and maybe getting saturated. And even in the article, Matt Frost talks about, we don't want to oversaturate the market and things like that. But if all of these events are selling out and there's people standing in the waiting list that have literally bitched for 3 years that they can't get into an event, bro, that means we can handle more. Now, It comes down to the promoters on our side to, 1, take care of those people, and 2, not put on a shitty event. Like, you can't just have racers. So, now that the circuit has sold out, we are full on spectator promotion. That is what we're focused on. We're focused on getting people in the stands. We want to have people watching these racers, talking to these racers, getting excited about drag and drive events. And I mean, dude, when's the last time you saw like an 8-second car pulling a freaking trailer, or like Brian Acton and Jay Blanchard, those crazy bastards? They have a basket hanging off the back with 2 tires on it.
Right.
It's wild.
You know what would be another interesting stat would be to see what the number of active drag strips in in the US is. So if we're going to visit over 60, that's 60 of how many?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great thing. Let me send me that in a message. Let's talk about that later, definitely. Yeah, and Taco Time Tyler right here, bud. Uh, these guys don't even know what they're getting into. I'm riding back from sick week with them. I rode down to sick week last year with them. They rescued me. Now I've begged to get a ride back with them. Definitely don't think it's saturated, but definitely think events need to watch overlap of dates. I feel like there are a lot of regional promoters that talk to each other that are, obviously I talk to Jared probably once a week, talk to Tyler and Zach at Cruise and Lose probably once a month. I'm always on their page looking at stuff. I think the regional events do very well at conversating between each other. It's the national events. Everybody's the coolest kid in the room at those events, and they don't want to give up any information. But even in the article, the guy from Hot Rod Magazine talks about that, like a standardized rule set would be nice, because then, at least for a few classes, because that would make it easier on my DragNDrive.com side, because then I could put, street race class, which is the 850 class. I could do a list for the 850 cars, whatever. So anyways,
You almost need a committee together to work with all the promoters and say, hey,
ugh,
let's get this ironed out. Who wants to do what this year, and work
yeah,
through that so that there isn't any, because that's
dude,
the last thing you want to do is
there's
have
no way.
promoters fighting.
There's no way that would happen. I mean, and that's really kind of what happened with Midwest Drags and the East Coast Invasion. Is sick week or sick summer came up and was, virtually the same tracks and areas. So, luckily Midwest Drags was able to locate some tracks elsewhere, and I'm excited to go to the East Coast. I've never been there, so that'll be fun. And then I see Jeff here says all the awards in the circuit keep it interesting. Also, we have a ton of fun stuff over there. And then I'm assuming this is Jared. It says Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona coming soon for Coder. That's really exciting. I think as we can expand west, I think those racers have been waiting. They're ready and waiting. Redwood Rally in Redding, California, just literally people are chomping at the bit to sign up for it. So Arizona, I think, would be a great state, just depending on the time of the year. And then, Tyler says, I don't think it would ever work, especially with Hot Rod being so corporate. But also, I don't think nobody wants to give up any ground. So if you went to someone's rule set, they'd be fine. But I don't know. The national level event promoters, they've got it all in their pants there for sure. I don't want to have to mess with anything. This is funny. I'll be the Wally Parks of DragNDrive, of regional DragNDrive events. So, oh man, look at this right here. Right here. So fall, September, Arizona, Tucson. Dude, that'll be perfect. Perfect. Okay. So we talked about 60 events or 60 tracks. That is with 26 events, which would also, this is kind of an interesting number here. And this is completely a guess based on what I've seen in the past and what I know of event max entries. But that's 3,500 to 4,000 entries that we could see in 2023. Dude, that could be, I mean, if we can double again, it'd be awesome. I mean, 4,000 people, 3,500 people showing up. Say you have the same 86% finish. I mean, dude, you're looking at more than 3,000 people will have finished for 2023. That's a huge bump for our community, which is really so small in relation to just an NHRA or IHRA or WDRA or PDRA. Those sanctioning bodies are so big because they have so many racetracks, so many places across the country. Are we growing into that? Is that what 10 years from now looks like?
You're going to have your hands full with all these stats that you got to gather up and put together.
Well, and that's one of the topics we'll talk about in a little bit. And that's the struggle that I run into, is because like the software I used for the circuit is great because it allows for so much information that I hope in the future other events will use it, simply because it will make my job easier, because then they can just export their file and send it to me, because that's what it'll have to be, because there is no sanctioning body. There is no NHRA for DragNDrive. So unless I physically know the promoter, it's very hard for me to get the data. I literally, there were some events in 2022 that they would send me pictures of the pieces of paper because they didn't have a whole lot of attendees. So they would send me the picture of the piece of paper, and then I would manually input all the data. So, you do that on 14 events. Okay, I have to do that on 3 or 4, no big deal. You talk about 26 events. If I have to do that on 8 events, 9 events, what's going to be wrong? What's
Right.
going to hurt it? So, I see Danny Fatka here saying maybe there should be, as far as a sanctioning body. I think it would be really hard. I think we are still too Wild West for somebody to step in and want to just really manhandle that. And how do you, as a corporate body, say the IHRA stepped in and they wanted to be part of it, or the new WDRA, this would be great for them because of their grassroots feel. How do you only want it to race at WDRA tracks? How does that work? So now we're, as promoters, we're like, okay, I can, to race under their rules, I can only do WDRA tracks. Well, that leaves me out. Now, I will say we have talked about in the past kind of a guideline of what we are doing to kind of help mitigate. Like, you can't do a 50-mile drive and then race and it be an event, be a drag and drive event. You can do, could we do, so our thing for 2023, and I'll go over this in the Drag and Drive news on Saturday morning, is race, drive at least 100 miles, or drive at least 85 miles, race again. And that is the minimum of a drag and drive event. You have to race full out, you have to drive 85 miles, and then you have to race full out again. So I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for a lot of other events that we haven't even talked about that have never been a drag and drive event. They could also be a drag and drive event because of the easy part there. So let's move on to 23 and fast stuff, dude, because this is one that I find very, very interesting. And I know Taco Time Tyler's in here. Those guys are number 101 on the list, right? With an 8.9 is number 101. They're in this really weird 4-car gap between the fastest 100 and the 9.0 list. So they're the honorable mentions between that gap. So hopefully, well, let's talk about the number 100 spot. So I went back to 2020. I'll do a 19 later. I still have to do some Midwest Drags manipulation on 2019 to get this number, but 2020 Carl Bright was actually the number 100 spot with an 11,131. And then Rich Guido, 2021 was our number 100 spot with a 9,231. Again, pulled that right from the 2021 stats on the DragNDrive.com. And then 2022, Wayne Baker, my favorite gasser of the entire year. Love that Nova, big front end blower, does cool wheelies, all that kind of stuff, with an 8,958. So what are we going to see and guys, tell me in the comments, what are we going to see for the new number 100 spot for 2023? Will I be able to make an 8-second list for 2023? Because you got to think, here's the other side of it too. If we only use a racer's fastest average, so for these lists, they're only populated one time. So like Cameron Thorpe is a great example. He would have technically made the 11.0 list, but since he ran a 10.511 at Sick Week, he wasn't on the 11.0 list. So we only use your fastest time. So will we get, like Tyler says, some 790s? Is that going to be the new number 100? Maybe we should do like I don't know how will Facebook let me do a giveaway if we run that from here until the end of the year? Again, this is national events, quarter mile. This is for 4+ days is a national event in my book. So congratulations to Wayne Baker on making the number 100 spot for 2022. And then here we go. Danny says you can be an independent sanctioning body and go to whoever's track. That could be an interesting thought. I don't think I want the brain damage of that, but I'm open to talking to folks and helping run stuff. So from there. All right. So you had, do you want to ask this next question, or do you want me to keep talking?
I got it. So this question is why do you think the segment is growing?
Well, in my opinion, COVID, sadly, I think it allowed people to finish their car. I said that in the article too. I think people were able to finally get that few months of time to where they can relax a little bit, order some parts, get that stuff, and without, anyways, I think it allowed them to finish their car, and now they're ready for some adventure. They want to do something. They want to get out and about, and really, the other side of it too is the hype.
Yeah.
You have Sick the Mag, who has started. 2021 was their first year, so now you've got 18 months of Sick the Mag being out and the hype from it. You've got all of the Tom Bailey stuff that's happened since then, his channel growth and all that. And then, I mean, if you've got people like Drag Illustrated, Monday Morning Racer, you've got PRI Magazine talking about it, Hot Rod Magazine giving even 2 issues dedicated to Drag Week. I think more and more people they're seeing it. Now they're seeing it. Yeah, we need more time. Yes, that is for sure. That is for sure.
So with that, I know a lot of people are running into part shortages. So how is that? Is that going to end up being something that takes a step backwards because people are struggling to get parts?
Yeah, I think
Hope not.
right, but I think as folks begin to sign up for these events, I think they'll get more. They'll Six Summer is a great example for you. Like the reason you're going for that for media is because it's in your backyard, right?
Right.
So as we see events like that become available to folks on the West Coast and things like that, maybe they were planning to do Sick Week in February in Florida. Well, if they don't have the parts, well, now they can do Midwest Drags, or they can do Sick Summer, or they can do Rocky Mountain Race Week. As we begin to spread across the country and into Canada, people have a lot more opportunity to plan. I think people are starting to look at that like, hey, I don't have to be ready in February and absolutely kill myself to make an event because there's more events that are available. And on the promoter side, that's our job, is to do better for those guys that, want to attend their close event now, and
Right.
draw out more people, and the folks that I keep saying closer to home, but the folks that want to attend, like how many times have you raced at Byron, right?
Yeah.
Several times, right? That's your home track. That's where you go. Well, you may do Sick Summer because that's the closest to your house. Hey, I can do 8 days away from the family for the first time. That's what my wife is going to allow. My kids are, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, then I mean, I'll tell you, you go on one and then you're like, I want to go to that one. I want to go to that one. I want to go over there. I want to see what that is. I've never been to the East Coast and raced at tracks out there. Let's go. So yeah, and then Tyler's talking
Absolutely.
about stuff being on back order and things like that. Let's see. I had one other thought before we jump into the Brian Lohnes topic, because I feel like that podcast is great. Oh, dude, let's talk about streetcars and you coming in from outside. What's a fast streetcar to you?
So I think what makes a good fast streetcar would be somewhere in the 8590s. Because once you start getting down into the 849 and quicker, you get into the funny car cage. And to me, that kind of goes away from a traditional streetcar.
Right. So let's back up one step. What would you say it was before the last 3 years?
I
Because
think
I'm looking for a number here.
yeah, when I started building the Fox body, which is 3, 4 years ago, my goal was just to make a 10.0 pass in it. So
Right.
10.0 is what used to be fast for a streetcar.
Yeah, and dude, 10.0 is still fast.
It is.
That's what I want people to understand, because even in that thing, even in the PRI article, and I talk about that, I've talked about that a lot tonight. That's the new drinking game for the folks that are watching. You got to play catch up. An 850 car is awesome. I feel like that is the perfect street car because it's easy to get in and out of. It's nothing crazy. You still have door bars, all this kind of stuff, right? But a 10-second car accounts for 238 of the 1,570 cars for this year. So It's a huge percentage. It's more than 12-second cars. For the first time in all of the history that I've done everything, 12-second cars have always been number one with 10 seconds as second place. So now that that's flipped, are we seeing these guys that ran 12-second cars? Are they now upgrading? Are they now running a 10-second car? You know, because 11-second is right behind them with like 150 something racers or something like that in the 11-second range. So yeah, somebody says 850 is the new 10-0, and that's right. And I think that's probably right for folks that have had some 10-second cars. Now, me, I've never had a 10-second car, so that's my first goal. Always my goal is rolling burnouts and ice cream. So I think as we move forward, 850 becomes this really cool number to talk about. But I think the 10-second car, because of the build that you can do with that, doesn't have to be the craziness. And a 12-second car, we know that, I mean, that's a late model GT Mustang with some tires and a tune, I think. I mean, I don't know what a Coyote Mustang does now, but it's probably pretty close to that.
I would guess so.
Yep. Yeah. Streetcar that never gets driven at these events. Yeah. The streetcar is 100%. That's what this proves. And that's what David Freiberger talks about all the time. And even in the podcast with Brian Lohnes, he talks about what is a streetcar. Yeah. This is an exact example of what I'm talking about. Tyler knows 100%. They had the trans out 3 or 4 times in the Taco Time Fairmont, leading up to race week, leading up to Midwest drags, all that kind of stuff. So those 850 cars become, you know, your level of hurt, your level of, oh man, I damaged a converter, I spun a drive shaft, or I bent a drive shaft, whatever, becomes exponentially more expensive than, say, like a 10-0 or a 12-0 car. A 12-0 car, especially if you've never done one, just go out and compete, because the other side of that is and I know folks are going to hear me in this, when you're driving along and there's some shit rattling around and you've got 3 hours of sleep for 4 days, your brain doesn't work, one. And then two, you think, oh man, it's a rod. Give up. We're out. All this kind of stuff. So it's wild, man. I tell you, just go and compete and be a co-pilot. Like, that's the other side. Be a co-pilot with somebody. You don't have to drive and race your car the first time. Just go out and be a part of it. So, right here we go. Got some stickers delivering today. That was exciting. I love seeing all the folks get their stickers. There should be a ton more that get them tomorrow and the next day.
So that conversation kind of got me thinking a little bit with the people that attend the multiple events. I'd be curious to see what class those guys are running. Are they primarily in the 10, 11, 12s? Are they in the 850 classes? Because the way I think is like somebody had mentioned, an 850 car gets expensive. So if you want to compete in multiple events, do you need, can you afford to build an 850 car and compete in multiple events? Or do you stick with a 10-0, 11-0 car and then compete in multiple events rather than just one?
Well, and go back to Cameron Thorpe. I mean, his car's 10.5 to 11.0. He can run that all day, obviously, at 20 different tracks across the country. So I think that's a great question. I will say that Cletus McFarland, he is the only driver to complete 3 national events in the 7-second range. Glenn Hunter is second, right behind him with I think his is like an 8.3 average or something like that, because his drag week average was off. It was like in the 830s or no, 880s or something like that. So, but what Jonathan's talking about too here, you NA guys you're on a next level. That's why I love Power Adder stuff. Valve Train is easier. Everything like that is easier on Power Adder stuff. But NA guys, you're your whole own animal. So, well, dude, go ahead.
So what do you think? What would you rather do? Would you rather run an 850 car at one event, or would you rather run a 10, 11 second car at multiple events?
Yeah, I'll run a 12-second car and drive it everywhere. I want to see who does 6 events next year. Robert Williams is one of the only guys to ever compete in 5 events or complete 5 events. Him and Steve Willingham have both completed 5 national level events in the past. So it's pretty awesome. I would love to be able to do that and race. The hard part is, and that's one of our questions later that we'll get into, but which is harder, competing or media coverage? And competing is 100% harder. So, and if you're a co-pilot, you've got to, if you're carrying your weight, that's probably as hard without the stress as driving, because you're looking, you're trying to figure out the map, especially on these folks that have like a turn-by-turn direction on the maps and things like that. So, well, dude, you want to talk about anything else there? You want to jump into the Brian Lohnes topic, and then we'll talk about your questions for me later.
No, I think we're good. I've just made a note of
Okay.
those couple things I think we should kind of get some information around, just because I think it'd be interesting.
Awesome. All right, perfect. So I will say this for the folks listening, if you haven't listened to the Dork-O-Motive podcast about sorry, I'm putting the comments here, about the 1992 Hot Rod Magazine Streetcar Shootout, it's a great listen. Obviously, I love the way Brian Lohnes delivers stuff. I love the research he does on that. We actually reached out to him to see if he could be on tonight. Sadly, he could not, but don't worry. I'm going to see if I can pressure him into coming on or request that he comes on. So if anybody wants to tag him in this, that would be great. I do want to say this podcast, my number one question at the end of it is, how much time did he spend on this? Because I know what it takes to put out a podcast. I cannot simply imagine. I mean, he had phone calls with 8 or 9 different people that probably would have lasted an hour or two a piece, at least, to get the first conversation out. Then you got to have another one. Then you got to, oh, hey, I forgot to ask this, or you said it like this. What does this mean? Things like that. So
I think he even said towards the end that there was about 5 hours of
yeah.
content that he hadn't even used, that he could probably make a whole nother podcast. And this
I'd love it.
podcast was what, 2 hours and 15 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And he
would
said it
love
was
it.
a long time coming, putting that together.
I'll tell you, I would listen to 7 hours of that podcast
It was
because
interesting.
there's really a lot of neat stuff. And they keep tying back to how that event set up the drag and drive events of the future and things like that. This is 1992 fast street cars. I mean, this is like 850, 90 cars, all that kind of stuff. But these magazine editors, David Freiberger and all those guys, all the magazine guys, had been traveling the country talking about street cars, who had the fastest, and they would get together and argue over all that. What is a street car? All that kind of stuff, right? Well, as it moves through the podcast, he talks about how these guys heard about it, because now we just post an event on Facebook and everybody shares it, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But in 92, like, dude, you'd literally somebody would have to know somebody and then know you that you have a fast street car and be willing to call you to see if you wanted to attend.
I noticed a lot of people had actually heard from Jeff Smith himself about the event,
Yeah.
which he was the editor of the Hot Rod magazine back in 92. So yeah, a lot of guys were like, yeah, Jeff reached out directly to me, or I heard from a friend that this event was happening. So yeah, that was a very interesting point, because like you said, there was no social media. There was no place to post it. I mean,
hell, I don't
sure,
even know if there's
maybe in a
emails.
magazine.
Was there emails in 1992? Could you send emails?
I was 6. I don't know.
I don't remember. I wasn't, but so basically the premise is these guys, it was a 20-mile drive, and one of them, and I left my notes at work with his name, actually towed his car the 20 miles instead of driving it, which is pretty neat. So 20-mile drive. I don't remember the time they said that won the overall, but it was like 850s. I think somebody ran in the 830s throughout the event. Am I crazy there?
No, I was just looking at my notes. I think it was Randy Lambert, I believe, is the one that towed his car. I think it was the Impala.
Yep, that's right. It was the Impala. And I think information like that's pretty cool to have. And that's what I like about all of Brian's stuff. There was interviews with at least 8 or 9 different racers. One thing I do want to know is the total car count. There's one part where the announcer of the event talks and like names out the names. And so I have the fastest 10, and then I think I added another 10 or 11, maybe 9. And he's counting them now. You got to take a shoe off. Oh no, you're Illinois. You're fine.
I got 26 cars.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I
awesome.
know
So,
not all of them were mentioned because I actually went and kind of looked into this a little more after I finished the podcast, because he had mentioned some people had passed away since that
yeah.
event. So it
Oh,
looked
that's right.
like
Yeah.
that there was 26 that I could find that were at that
Man,
event.
that's so crazy. And here's the other side that I found really interesting is like you can't find any info. Like there's not like a simple 1992 Hot Rod Magazine Streetcar Shootout that you can type into Google and it gives you anything that's remotely close to, you've really got to do some digging. So I'm hoping with DragNDrive.com that people will be able to do that in the future. They could see who ran what in 2007. We could run that from there, like Tom McGilton, who's done 18 events. Like as he does more and becomes, all that. So
Looks
I
like
don't know.
the fastest pass was an 8,383
Nice,
in
nice.
92.
Yeah, that's fast. And one of the guys was talking about the shitty tires. He's like, man, I had hard Mickey Thompson Sportsmans
Right.
on the car, and I mean, I can't imagine trying to run that. He said he would spin out to about 150 feet or something like that, and then,
Right.
then
And that
run
was
them
on
down.
a 60 something Camaro is what it was.
Yeah,
And
yep,
he eventually he got it going to where he would actually pull the front wheels on the line with those hard tires. Like
nice.
that's got to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine, and just the technology that we have available now, 30 years later, compared to what they had then. I mean, you're talking about there was a whole lot of screwdriver tuning on carburetors.
Yeah,
You didn't need a laptop then.
that was Billy Edwards. He went 630s on a hard Mickey Thompson tire.
Wow, that's awesome. I did pull some of these names back against some of the historical stuff I had in DragNDrive, and I don't see any of the names of the top 10 there in my list. So that's my other question. If Brian is ever able to get on, or maybe he'll answer the questions that I sent. Did those guys go on to do a drag and drive event? That because obviously I want to know how we get from 92 to the pump gas drags in 2003 to then hot rod drag week in '05.
Yeah, towards the end they talked a little bit about what drivers have continued and which ones are still racing. And I
Yeah,
don't know that it actually hit on drag and drive events per
it,
se, but a lot of those
yeah,
guys are still racing.
yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. And one of my questions to him was, how many of those guys still have that car they raced? I thought that would be a neat topic to know. So if he
Yeah.
does, I would love to have the conversation with him and bring him over here and let him talk for as long as he wants to. I don't care. We'll be on here for 4 hours if we want to.
Right.
Um, One of the cool stories that I really thought hit home about how these racers on this and how street racers evolve into drag and drive stuff is it's about an hour and 9 minutes in. The rear axle repair, Max Carter axle tubes were like spot welded together. They had
Yep.
bought the car and put it together for the event. The axle tubes are like spot welded. At one point, they're like standing on one corner and lifting. I mean, it was like the whole back system was like a pendulum, he said. And so they go over, one guy says, no, man, we don't have anything we can loan you. We don't have a welder, we don't have a wrench we'll give you or
Oh,
anything like that.
Steve Johnson's group, they were from New
Yeah.
York with a big rig basically.
Yeah.
And when he went and asked, the guy said, I don't even got an open end wrench I can loan you.
I thought
And
that
when I
was
heard that,
pretty wild.
I'm like, that's, that you don't hear about that in today's drag and
Yep.
drive, but as the story goes on, it kind of
Yep.
comes around to more what today would be like.
Yep, yep. And then Dan Scott's the guy that comes to the rescue. They take the rear axle out. He's welding it right there in the pits on the ground. I mean, that's 100% drag and drive life right there.
And
Um,
and as he was welding the rear end, Ken Anderson calls him and is looking for head gaskets. So he
yeah,
goes and gets head gaskets and
yep,
gives them to him. So
yep,
yeah,
yep,
those kind of stories are very cool.
yep. I thought that was really neat. And then, yeah, I've got that on there. And then those guys were holding the axle like they're trying to eyeball it to be straight before he welds it. It was pretty cool.
And he ended up being the very last person to qualify for the event
Yeah,
after he repaired it. I don't see 12:27 at 81 miles an hour
yeah.
is what
I thought
is
that
what
was
he
pretty
ended up
wild.
making a pass just trying to get into the event.
Yeah, because of they were saying because of attrition that it was literally if you made a pass, you could get in.
Yep.
So that's pretty wild. It's funny that, the street side of stuff is what kills these cars. Everybody can build a fast race car that goes a quarter mile at a time, but it's the idling in traffic or the sustained 3,100 RPMs for 132 miles that kill stuff.
Are you going to talk about who actually won it, or?
No, dude, lead us.
Okay, so that was what yeah, that is what was interesting to me is Max Carter is the one who broke his rear end, last place qualifier, 12:27 at 81 miles an hour, and ends up winning the event at the 8.383.
That's
So
pretty awesome.
how wild is that to, you're welding up your rear end, you barely make it in, and then he ends up being the one that wins the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah, that one of the guys was talking about that they had their car kind of dialed in. They had spent some time in the car, all that kind of stuff, and you could tell there was a lot of guys that had not. Is
Yeah.
what he was saying. And then
Yeah,
somebody
which
says
will
a pump gas class at a DragNDrive would be cool, but hard to regulate. Yeah, I mean it's
which we'll talk about not having cars ready next week when we do that podcast. But
yeah,
um, one of the other things that I found interesting was that this event was um, small block, big block, nitrous, turbo, NA, small tire,
yeah,
big tire, suspension. Like it was open. It was run what you brung,
yeah,
fastest street cars. Obviously, the one guy that showed up with a Corvette on alcohol got turned away because that was one of their rules. But
yeah.
like there was no class. It was just
Well,
the
and
fastest of the fastest.
they even said like we should have let him run alcohol. Like it didn't matter. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have made that rule. What's wild to me is like the NA guys got such a weight break. You could be like 2,600 pounds or something like that NA, but it was like 2,900 or 3,000 pounds for Power Adder.
Yeah, I think the lightest car, if I remember right, was 2,800 pounds, and it was one of the Mustangs. I don't remember which
That's
one.
surprising. I thought those cars were really heavy. It's probably a gutted Fox body. But what's funny is like you're talking about a car that in '92 had only been out since '79.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure the lightest car was the Fox body. I think it was like a 79 or 82 or something like that.
yeah, there was
Um,
in the race there was an 89, a 92, and an 86
yeah,
Mustang, and then a 65, which it wasn't the 65. It was I want to say it was Steve Graybeck in his 92, but it's probably in my notes here somewhere, but I can't remember.
that's awesome. And then a few other things, and then we'll move on to the other topics here. Is I want to know what the next stages of that. Like I said earlier, I want to know. I hope he continues to push the story. Like how do we get from that? How do we get from the streetcar shootout to the pump gas drags, and then to drag week, and then obviously we talked about the growth from drag week. Uh, there's something I'm working on already that should hopefully tell some of the boom that we're seeing now, but it's going to take me a little bit to put together. So, but
Yeah,
it won't be on the same par with him, but it's going to be something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and his podcast has motivated me to go ahead and do it because that information needs to be out there. That information needs to be told.
yeah. Looks like Rick Dyer. He was 69 Camaro, 3,600 pound car doing wheel stands and going high eights and low nines. And then
Yeah,
he made a comment that they were hanging out at restaurants and driving around town in these cars.
yeah. That's so cool. And I think that's one of the funnest things about DragNDrive is because there's so many opportunities for people that don't typically get to see these kind of cars. If they don't go to the track, they don't have any kind of interaction with that kind of stuff. Now they can, now they get a chance to get up close to it. And for DragNDrive stuff, you talk about like Brian Acton's car is one of my favorite cars. They literally have a basket on the back. It's got two slicks on it. Like, their toolbox, all that kind of stuff. So like that car pulls in, and it's a really nice Nova. That car pulls into a restaurant in middle America, wherever that's at, Ohio, Iowa, whatever. They pull in, people are going to gather. Oh man, I had one like that. And they're like, you didn't have one like this. I guarantee it, because it's 850 car, but like that
Yeah.
car's ran sevens, And so, but you get all these people that are talking about it. And even cars like Bailey's pulling a trailer. I mean, you're talking about a 5-second capable car pulling a trailer 1,000 miles. That's pretty neat when you start thinking of kids that are 8 to 12 years old that are in their mom's minivan or Tahoe, and this car comes blah, 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 blah in, and you're at the window looking out.
Right.
That's just really neat stuff. And even like some of the 10 and 12-second cars, like Jesse Mataferri, who has the trucker, with the John Deere cab and stuff like that. Like, talk about garnering attention across the entire part of whatever he's driving on. People are clamoring to come look at that. So,
and kids love race cars in general. I mean, I've
yeah.
taken my car, the Fox Body, to just some local meets, and I open up the door and let kids jump in there. I mean, it's not a great car, it's nothing special, but I mean, they love getting in a race car and
Yeah.
and having that feel. One last thing I'll say about the podcast: everybody should go listen to it. It's really good. It is
Yep.
2 hours and 15 minutes. One thing that I found interesting was Randy Lambert had mentioned in 1988 the NMCA put on a race at Union Grove, Wisconsin, which is right by me, that was King of the Streets. So King of the Streets is actually it went away 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4. But that was a big no prep event here at Union Grove that I used to attend all the time. So when they had
Wow.
mentioned back in '88 that there was this King of the Streets race at the same track, I hadn't even heard of that before. So
Yeah. Were you
anybody
even born in '88?
I was too, but anybody that's from around here knows of King of the Streets and Union Grove. So
Yeah.
definitely thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we got any comments on that. So, do you want to jump in? So, I'll kind of give folks I don't know,
Do we
precept
want
here
to
is
talk about what a streetcar is? Do we
oh
still want to have
God,
that part or no?
No. I feel like an 850 car would be awesome. I feel like a 10 to 1299 car is more than enough for anybody. Because here's the other thing. I think the other question I had for you, and that was, what's the fastest pass you've ever made, and then what's the fastest car you've ever ridden in?
Yeah, so for me personally, I have only driven the Fox Body behind me there 3 passes, and then somebody oiled down our track, so I didn't get to make any more passes. It wasn't twin turbo yet, it was stock 6.0, and I had 0 seat time in the car, and I think I ran a 13.9 at like 100 mile an hour,
Yep.
which if I had the seat time, that car as it sat should have been at least in the 12s, if not better.
Well,
But
should have been.
yeah, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes driving it, and I just wasn't comfortable with the car yet. I mean, I was impressed that the thing stayed together, making it all the way down the track. Honestly, I put the thing together from nothing. It was just a chassis sitting on a garage floor when I picked it up. So,
That's awesome.
and the fastest car I've ridden, that's a good question. I've been in a couple like nitrous Fox bodies that my buddy has. Um, that's probably the quickest, or his S10, and I
Yep.
think it runs high sevens, low eights
Like in the quarter or eighth.
in the quarter.
Wow. That's a
It's a
really fast car.
it's a fast truck. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I wasn't in it, making a pass, but
Yep.
it's still it's an impressive truck.
Right. So here's the research I did for that topic. 170 cars were 850 to 950 cars, averages, right? Across the event. Now they may have been fast for whatever, but they over the year, 170 cars, 850 to 950. That's only 10% of the competitors. Right. So 238 10-second cars, 234 12-second cars, and 150 something 11-second cars. So the moral of my story is, whatever you have, just get in and enjoy it and drive it to one of these events and have fun.
That's
Do,
me.
do do burnouts for kids. Who cares?
That's
So
me. That's definitely something I'm gonna do. And the more I've talked to people, and I think I'm worrying myself about things breaking more than
yeah,
listening to the stories of of giving out head gaskets and welded rear ends. It's like I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's normal stuff, man. A head gasket swap in a hotel parking lot, that's normal. All right.
Somebody had mentioned there was an entire COTS race series back then.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty
That's
awesome.
something I didn't even know.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Okay, dude, you want to jump in here? I'll let you take the lead here, kind of tell folks what we're doing, and I'll open up this other one.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask Mike, just kind of regarding drag and drive growth. You know, this episode was covering 2022, what he plans on doing for 2023. So just a list of questions I put together and thought this would be a good topic. So first one is talk about the process of starting drag and drive, the social media, and these numbers should be pretty accurate, but Facebook, 2.7K, Instagram, 57K, YouTube, 2.7K.
Yep.
Is this the type of growth that you had expected when you started it, or is it, higher or lower?
The Instagram growth blew my mind. Obviously, 57,000 people following the Instagram channel is pretty amazing. YouTube and Facebook, yeah, I kind of expected 2,500, and the reason being is we were still such a small community that you really end up, there's not a whole lot of growth from Facebook that they're just going to give you, and then YouTube, of course, it's it's actually almost as large as the Narcoleptic, which I grew for 5 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I would say I expected that kind of growth, but it's right on track with what I would expect. But we are definitely seeing more views now per video and all that kind of stuff. So that's exciting.
I mean, I think for starting it in 2022, I think that's pretty good growth for your first year.
Well, I'll say this. We've posted more than 3,000 times across all the channels. So there has been some guerrilla warfare there for sure. Guerrilla posting. We are just manhandling people into submission on that. And I will say this, and I'll say it again here in a little bit too on another question. We're going to do more in 23. We're going to do more.
So talk a little bit about taking over that drag and drive addiction group and kind of the growth of that group. I know you mentioned earlier it's grown from what 4,000 was it up to 9,600 or something?
Yeah, I think it was like 42 or 4,300 when I came on. And obviously there were some conversations going on over there, but there just wasn't as much. And obviously if we can have racers talk to racers and answer racer questions, that's what we want to do, And so the Drag and Drive Addiction Facebook group allows that. And there's so much information that I put there. I think that's probably another reason DragNDrive.com, Facebook, and YouTube maybe hasn't grown as much. Is simply because I share it in the Drag and Drive Addiction Facebook group and on DragNDrive.com. So if you have 9,600 people in Drag and Drive Addiction Facebook group, Facebook is more likely to show it to those folks. And then, hey, right here, hi, dude, Nivlak 57. They were on last week or week before last, talking about their trip to PRI and stuff like that. So it's good to see them.
And they just hit a milestone on their YouTube channel,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Yeah, 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So if you're not subscribed to them, you definitely need to go do that because I love their channel. Love their channel. Love the way they explain stuff. Love the way they build stuff. Their engineering minds definitely lend to some drag and drive success, which they're bringing 2 cars to 6 weeks. So I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. After that episode, I definitely did a little researching on the Vortec 4.2.
Yeah, dude. If you didn't, there's something wrong with you. Like, it's an interesting motor. I mean, like I'll give it to him. I just wish there were some performance options, and I wish it wasn't so tall. It's just so very tall. What I think would be fun is to do one of those in an old truck or an old long nose 60s car, just because those cars came with 6 cylinders.
Yep.
And now it'd be fun to have that. I do want to say we are now the second largest Drag and Drive Facebook group out there with Drag and Drive Addiction. So that's pretty neat. I want to say thank you to everybody that invites folks all the time. I love that. I think there are a lot of folks that go in to invite their friends and realize that their friends are already in there. So So it's pretty cool to be almost 10,000. I really feel like we'll hit 10,000 members by the end of the month. So I was hoping we'd get there by the end of the year, but I'm out of friends to invite. So we don't want to invite friends that are just people. We want to invite DragNDrive folks. So
Yeah. So how is the participation in that group? Are you happy with that participation?
yeah, yeah, definitely. We are seeing a lot more folks come on to we're seeing a lot more folks come on and ask questions that are new to the community. So I think we're going to go through that phase now to where we're kind of, hey, what's the best this, what's the best that, kind of, hey, this is going to be my first DragNDrive event, what should I look for type questions. And it's always great when a new person comes on, because you get and they ask that question, what should I expect in my first event? And then you look 2 hours later, there's 20 comments. That's pretty amazing that so many people go in there and reply to that person and help answer questions and all that kind of stuff. So
The struggle is the larger you get, you don't want to end up with, people asking questions and then people getting irritated having to ask the same
yeah,
questions. I see that in a lot of different groups I'm in, but I
yeah,
don't think right now that's going to be an issue.
yeah. I don't think so. I think one, I approve every comment, and well, not me, the team. We approve every comment and every new member. So if I can't pull up your main profile and see a car in the last 6 or 8 posts that you've got on your Facebook page, you ain't getting in. So, man, we want car people. So there's a lot of bots that are out there too. And so we try and keep a lot of that clean. We could probably be 20,000 if we just open it up, but I'm not going to. So,
Right. I think that's the right way to do it too.
yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the YouTube channel. You've got Drag and Drive News, you've got Daily Dose of Drag and Drive, you've got the Drag and Drive Show, you've got shorts, event coverage, quick cuts. What's your 2023 goal, and what do you want to do with the channel?
Yeah, so I definitely want Drag and Drive. The Drag and Drive show is my favorite. I love a long format, a chance for us to really have in-depth conversations. The Drag and Drive news, sorry, the Drag and Drive show is Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. It's kind of the best time for me to do this. I will say Eric has been on the whole time that we've been doing this, but we will have rotating guests. There'll be some times where maybe he isn't here and someone else is here. I know everybody is sad about that, but I kind of want to, we're going to make, it's going to keep it up. The one thing is I want more guests, and I haven't had the opportunity, just because work has been a little wild and my home life has been wild, to really dive in and get those guests to come on. My ultimate goal for the Drag and Drive show would be to have a 5-minute segment with a guest on Saturday morning on the Drag and Drive news that is pre-recorded and kind of gives an overview and teases folks, and then have that guest on again Wednesday night to be able to expand on the information that we gave them. So it really works well for a lot of, I'm not going to say businesses, but a lot of builders, a lot of that, because we can maybe build some interest, and then come on here and really dig deep and have great conversations about Drag and Drive and what to look for. I really want an engine builder on here because I want to talk about just how you go, from initial conversation to in the car making 9-second passes, 10-second passes. What's the process look like? What's your, it's what was so great about having John from Delta PAG on the Drag and Drive news show is his thought process on the entire cooling system. And then Andrew Starr, I want to have him back on, his cooling system, tuning, all that kind of stuff, because there's so much that goes into not just an all-out pass. There's so much that goes into how do you tune that thing for the street? How do you tune it to drive and get decent mileage? Like Scott Kleppinger would be a great guest on here, because his 7-second Camaro gets 24 miles a gallon on the highway towing a trailer, while he's on a Drag and Drive. So, there's a lot that I want to do with both of those. The Drag and Drive news, I want to get back on a regular schedule with it. Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Not live. I want to pre-record and edit down so people get a hard 30 minutes on what is coming for the community, what's coming for events, any, like the Sweet Patina built for Drag and Drive segment, how we dig deep in 3 minutes for a car build, or, like the Nelsons, the Fiat they're bringing to Sick Week. how can we dive deep into that and build some hype around that car for them once they get there, and then be able to obviously expand on what goes into building a 700 horsepower 4200 that lives.
Yeah,
So lives for
I
sick
like
week.
I like that idea. I think kind of teasing that and then having that on Wednesday night's a good idea.
Well, and I can, I'll come up with like 3 to 5 questions. The guests can pick those 3 to 5 is my plan. They'll pick 3 of the 5, and then we'll just hit them hard. That'll be their segment on the news, and then Wednesday night we'll expand and talk about all the stuff, kind of like what we've done tonight with deep dive into stuff, and then the shorts, event coverage, and quick cuts. I don't know how to say this, but I'm going to be the hardest working dude anybody knows in DragNDrive. I'm going to lay it out right now because the racers deserve that. There is so much stuff that I am not able to talk about just because I don't have the time to put it together, sleep, work my day job, take care of my family, cook breakfast in the morning. I mean, like, I'm getting up earlier in the mornings now trying to do stuff before they all get up. I'm going to bed later trying to get stuff done before I absolutely fall asleep at the table. Things like that. Like, I'm going to do a lot more of that. I'll just tell you. All right. So anyways, quick cuts, shorts, all that stuff is coming.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about the differences between attending a DragNDrive as a competitor versus more of a media outlet / promoter. Which one's tougher? Kind of what do you enjoy about those?
Yeah. Competitors way tougher, mainly because of the time in the lanes. The crossover or the get ready, we'll call it. I don't know what that phrase is. The race ready setup. I don't know. Coming in, I'll tell a funny story real quick. I had never mounted the slicks on the Narcs cart. We pull into race week. Day one, I'm going to go mount them up. They don't fit. Okay. Had to literally borrow a grinder from Carlos Astor and grind down my caliper so it would clear the wheel. If I was doing media coverage, I wouldn't have had to do that. But the other side of media coverage is, like, but most of these folks don't, is oh man, I need to go talk to that guy. That will get you in more trouble than anything because you'll be at the line. This is a perfect example. Tina Pierce makes a 200-mile-an-hour pass at King of the Open Road in November. She makes the pass. I watch 2 more races, and then I run halfway across Thunder Valley to get to her to get an interview. How do you, as one person, how do you see all that? How do you get the right angles? How do you talk to the right number of people? And moving forward, how do I provide more content? Because even now, Midwest Drags has the best DragNDrive live feed out there because there are roaming cameras that are set up to stream right to the live stream, right? So the producer can pick and choose who they pick, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, like all these others, and a lot of times Midwest Drags team, you're just looking at the track, or you're just looking out over the pits or something like that. How do we provide real-time stuff? How do you jump on, I don't know, YouTube Live or use StreamYard here and run around and interview 10 people and not bore people? Because they still want to watch racing that's going on the live stream, but they still want to see our stuff too. So you end up, do you edit down stuff? I spent probably 4 hours a day just editing down the small clips so I could post them to, YouTube Shorts or Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever we're on.
Right. So one of the things I struggle with the media stuff is you want to do shorts, reels, TikToks.
Yeah.
You want to do full length videos for YouTube. Some of the best videos that I've done were when I was at the starting line and Dan was at the trap, and we got both angles. So
Yeah.
then that makes for a really good video. You get to see the launch, you get to see, the first half of the track, and then you pick up from the other camera.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes 2 people.
Yeah.
Photos, I've really gotten into photos. I want to take photos at the starting line. Interviews in the pits. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very hard to do all that with one person, and then
Yeah.
how do you make a team to do it?
Yeah. Because, like, at the same time, I love DragNDrive. Love it. to my core, this is my jam. But for other people, it may not be their jam. It may be, this is fun, I enjoy it. But me, I'm trying to get every shot every time, tell every story, where they may be trying to get good shots, maybe a mediocre shot. They're like, hey, I've got to get content that I can put out that will perform well. Where me, I'm like, I want everything. I want
Right.
every racer. I want to have a conversation with every person. I want to talk about every pass. I want to talk, I don't know.
Right.
I'm just going to stand in front of the camera next time. It's going to be like an 11-hour live stream.
So do you set up two cameras, one, early on in the track and one later in the track?
And you just
Do you leave
run
them?
between them.
Do you leave them, let them record for, however long, switch them out batteries? I don't know.
God,
I don't know how
dude,
to do it, but it's
no,
something that,
can you imagine? That's one big benefit about the Midwest Drags team is that then I can go and they'll, physically give me those videos. So then I can take them and cut them down, which is my plan for this year. Is while we're driving from track to track, is I'll edit down videos from the live stream that day. So,
yeah,
obviously everybody loves big, fast passes. Maybe I can do fastest pass of the day, things like that. So the producer and his team will take notes throughout the day, who made the fastest pass, who did this, the time stamps and things like that. So there's a lot of that goes on, but I don't have that opportunity at any other event, so how do I grow that? How do I get that opportunity at other events?
well, I promise you're gonna see me at events, and you're gonna see me bothering people to get media passes and
Yeah.
take pictures and talk to
Yep.
people. I enjoy it. I
Yeah.
like talking to people. I like sitting here talking cars. I like
Yeah.
watching. I like all of it. So you're
Yeah,
definitely
well,
gonna see me at
you're
more
definitely
events.
on the list. So everybody, get ready to see that face for Sick Summer for sure. I just submitted my Sick Week media credentials. Submitted 4 of my Sick Week media credentials today, so I'm excited about that.
Yep,
I've
and I'll
already
be
bought
doing
my
the same.
plane ticket and everything like that, so I'm going. But I just hope I can get up close for you guys.
I'll if I don't get a media pass for Six Summer, which I don't see why I wouldn't, I'm still gonna be there
Yeah,
recording, whether
yeah.
I
I'm
have a
just I'm
media
just not
pass
going
or
to be in
not.
between the lanes. I'm going
I
to be
might
getting
be.
it from
Well,
wherever they'll let me.
I can run
Hey,
quick. I'll just get
yeah.
in, get a picture, run out.
I say it all the time. I've been thrown out of nicer places than
Mhm.
this.
All right, so real quick, how was your first pit announcing gig? What were your
Ugh,
thoughts on that? How did that go? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
I loved it. And for everybody that hasn't seen it, it's the Midwest Drags 2022 stuff. I love it because it gives the people at home a lot better show, right? So a lot of these events just simply show the racing. They don't show the pits. They only have, this was one of the biggest benefits to us, is the if there was nothing going on at the track, on the track, they could cut to me and I could talk to racers, right? So it took a couple days to work that out. So like day 3 and 4 is really the best days for that, I feel like. And going into this year will be so much better. It's going to be amazing because there's so many opportunities to talk with racers during downtime. Or even we have a picture in picture that started working out later in the week. So if it is, say, a slower grouping of cars that maybe we lose viewership during that time, we can jump over to me and I can interview, and you can still watch racing, but I can talk to people as they're in the lanes, as they're getting ready, all that kind of stuff. Getting the changeover. I think that's one of the funnest things for people at home that maybe are just watching these live streams to see, is because we can go watch racing every week. No problem. You can watch it, you can pull it up on your phone anywhere. But to, have a camera that was dedicated to Cletus during the Midwest Drags. I mean, like, wasn't dedicated, but we had it on him a lot. They could pop to that and it would show him either getting the car ready, getting the car switched over. Same for a lot of the racers that were in the pits. It allowed those people at home to see what it really takes to get your car ready, pull in, get the tires changed, get the car jacked up and lowered, and oh man, take the intercooler, whatever you had to do, you could get it in. So
Very
I loved
cool.
it. That was the long reaction to. I loved it.
And it won't be the last time you're doing that, right? You're doing that again this year.
Yeah, I'll be back at Midwest Drags. East Coast Invasion. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually purchasing my tickets next week because I'll fly to there because it's just so far Virginia Motorsports Park. Again, the fastest track in all of DragNDrive history. So it's
That's
exciting
cool
to go
too.
back there. That's where Bailey ran a 599.
So we'll move on a little bit. We'll talk about the stats or the data that you kind of gather for all of DragNDrive. How did you come up with this idea to make these lists and gather all this data?
Well, I'm going to blame a little bit of that on the team at DragNDrive Addiction. So Hyde and I are big buddies and partners on this, and we just snowballed ideas. What do people want? What do people want? What do people want? And so from there, obviously, I spend all day at my day job in Excel, and so I'm pretty proficient at that. And so I love the historical side of stuff. So I love that moving forward, people will be able to go to one spot and have all of this data instead of, I mean, literally, I don't even know how many hours I put into gathering the data. Just gathering the data is hundreds of hours, just gathering it. And then so having all of that now and having it moving forward, hopefully from event promoters, I hope that people don't, I hope people like what we're doing and they will uh, keep giving us information, right? Okay. So we get information a little bit early sometimes. A lot of the stuff we do is public, the same way everybody else does. I was the idiot that went through and grabbed 15 years of data from, Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I
So
love it.
I was gonna say I know you really enjoy doing that. So and I know you spend a lot of time getting it.
Yeah.
So and I think
I,
all the drivers do appreciate it. I think they like seeing all that information and now you're handing out stickers and I just
yeah.
think that the outlook of what you're doing is very good.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
definitely appreciate all the comments I've had over the last couple of weeks while I've been getting addresses to send those out. And the neat thing about having all of this historical stuff is it gives us an insight into like Tom McGilton. How many times are Clark Rosenstengel, who's DNF'd more than anybody else in history, but he's entered more than anybody else. You know what I mean? Like behind, so it's Tom and then Clark. Clark has done like 17 events, but only finished 7 or something like that. So it's really, I think as the sport grows and people like Drag Illustrated begin to take notice, we can look back and see, oh man, what was the fastest car in 2007? What was the fastest car in 2017? And they'll begin to use that data and will be an easy source for it. So yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I do see here roadblocks. I will say there's no easy way to get this stuff other than just physical search, unless you had conversations and a real good relationship with event promoters, which I maybe didn't have for some of the event promoters. And I had to just go in and do the work to gather all this stuff. So I'm hoping that moving forward, people won't have to do that work.
so what's kind of your future ideas, changes, updates to the data that you're collecting for 2023?
I want to add co-pilots. I think that is a huge thing. And I want to, obviously those folks don't get any love from any of the outlets because really the reason they don't get any of it from me is because I don't have that data. I physically don't have it. So moving forward, that's a big thing for us. I'm adding that spot to the circuit stuff so I can gather that and begin to put that on lists. So that and racer profiles to where you could physically go in and type in Clark Rosenstengel and it would pull up all of his averages or maybe more, all of his passes, all of the cars that he's done that in, things like that. So announcers and promoters and people looking into the history, people writing articles, journalists, all that kind of stuff could go in and get that kind of stuff in one place. Plus, the racer side of that too is if Clark doesn't remember what he finished the 2008 event with, he could go in there and pull that. Not that he would need that. He may remember it. I don't know. But I think it would be really cool to have that, and as we grow, as the sport grows, where could, what is stuff that we're not even thinking of? And I think the racer profiles would allow that, because you could really get down like Rick Prospero. in the Mazda RX-7, the Green Mamba. I mean, he literally did one 6 years ago and then comes out this year and is like number 3 or 4 on the list. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, those
mean,
are all definitely good updates, and
you know,
the co-pilots is going to be cool. Is that going to be hard to gather? Is that going to
ugh,
be
it's gonna be brutal, man. The it's probably realistically easy. It's just a form that I'll put on a post and then share it out to everybody. And then you would go through, and the hard part is how many events do you put on there? Do you put 10, the possibility to put 10 events on there? Like that's
right?
the big thing. So like, is Clark going to jump on Facebook, fill out the form for the co-pilot he's had for 10 years? Well, if he did 2 events in 1 year, how do you put that on? Like,
Right. Or what if
but
there's more than one co-pilot in a year?
yeah. And then
Multiple
the
events.
other side of that too is like, for guys that have only done one, do they need to see 10? You,
Yeah.
you've got to I feel like I've got to provide the data that I want to get without also making it too cumbersome for a lot of people.
Right.
So yeah, co-pilots is going to be hard. But if we had racer profiles, they could go in and they would select, hey, because I would see they had raced in the 2009 drag week, they could select 2009 drag week co-pilot Pete Holm,
Yeah.
for Steve Eden or whatever. So, man, why does I'm like so fuzzy. There we go. Sorry.
All right. So we're on to our kind of final questions here. Obviously, the future of drag and drive events is promising. And we talked a little bit about this, but do you have any worries of over polluting with the number of events that we're seeing? And you kind of hit on this earlier. These are selling out and everything, but just talk a little bit about how you feel there.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, it'll come down to promoters. If promoters put on a shitty event and don't take care of the racers, if they're just there, hey man, this is an easy way to make some money, or this is the new hot thing, I want to do this, they're going to miss the point. So and I was this guy 100%. So I can talk from experience. If you haven't attended a drag and drive event, you probably shouldn't host one. Like, if you haven't physically raced in an event, you probably shouldn't host one. And I did that in 2019 and 2018 with the circuit. I I just didn't care enough. And until you do it, you don't understand. So I think it'll take some weeding out, but I think we're probably going to, I don't know, mid 30s. I think will be the number that we'll end up with before it kind of everybody goes, holy shit, there's too many of these. And somebody, people put on 10 crappy events, and then we drop back down to mid teens, probably is fair. But if you look at the event schedule right now and the map, there's really the only stuff that's close to each other right now that is also close in relation is King of the Open Road, Cruise and Lose, and the circuit. And sorry, the schedule is backwards there. It's the circuit in April 14th, Cruise and Lose the 21st in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then King of the Open Road at Oklahoma City in May. So those are really the only 3, and they're regional events. Now, you can't stack national events that close, but you can stack regional events that close because, dude, regional people aren't going to travel 300 miles as a general rule to attend an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Andrea S123 says, I'm glad to see some stuff out west again. That's really been surprising to me that we haven't seen any really westward events in the last 5 years, because Hot Rod Drag Week did Drag Weekend, I think in Arizona or something like that, and it completely flopped. So was everybody scared? But there are so many people that drive from out there to attend Rocky Mountain events that, I mean, there should have been one a long time ago. So Redwood Rally, I'm excited for. I'm ready to see that. Dude, my camera is like, quit, man.
So
Yeah,
what
it's not.
events are you planning on attending here in 2023?
Well, I learned today that I have a week less of vacation than I thought. So I don't know. I'm on I know I'll be at Autocross Week. I know I'll be at Midwest Drags. I know I'll be at Sick Week. And then I don't know, Drag Week or Rocky Mountain or Race Week. One of those three is kind of on the bubble because I still have to fit a family vacation in there somewhere.
You
So
mean these DragNDrive events aren't a family vacation?
no, I ain't taking her on this stuff with me. You kidding me? Dude, don't do that. Listen, that do not. If your spouse, significant other is not into this, don't be like, "Oh, well, we'll use it as a vacation, honey. It'll be fine. It's just a couple hours driving every day. We'll be at the track."
Yeah.
It's not. Do not bring them. Do not. Anyways, sorry.
Awesome. I'll probably be at Six Summer.
Yep.
I think we talked about nostalgia nights. Might be heading there, and possibly down at your circuit, and then I don't know
Yep.
after that because I'm on the other hand where I have more vacation, so
Yeah.
I've got a
Yeah.
little more availability maybe to hit some of the smaller events too. Which
Yeah.
I do think some of the smaller events don't get the event media coverage that the larger ones do. So I
Yep.
think that that would be kind of good to hit up some of these smaller events because hey, who doesn't like seeing their car in a picture or a video?
Dude, that's what I'm
We all
saying.
do.
And it's going to be really interesting moving forward how that will affect like Chris Story he is our official photographer for the circuit. He is one of the photographers for King of the Open Road, and then those guys send a lot of that stuff um, Sick the Mag for entry into their magazine. I mean, there's a lot of really neat stuff. And I think that will help Sick the Mag, and obviously we're going to have to do that on our side too to get more content. I'm going to have to rely on guys like you that can come in and help me be where I can't be, especially for next year. And then 24, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully I can buy a car that gets a lot of gas mileage and maybe an airplane for 24. No. And then in the comments here, I definitely want to talk about hosting the circuit. That's April 14th through 16th at Joplin, Missouri. We are sold out. We are taking folks on the wait list right now. The wait list is only about 13, 14 people long, maybe 16 now. So there's a good opportunity for folks to race there. And then one thing that's cool is Send It Race Media worked out a deal to where the first broke. I love this trophy. The first broke, you get your money back for your entry and free entry into the King of the Open Road event that falls sometime in May. I love that because then you can go home, you can fix your stuff, and you can get redemption back again on another regional. I love that. I think that's going to be great. King of the Open Road, I don't know their schedule yet, but if they've got stuff in Arizona, that's going to be hard. Texas and Oklahoma, I'm in on every event that I can do with them. So
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, last question here. What are your personal goals for DragNDrive for 2023?
This one's a hard one, and I did write some stuff down because I wanted to make sure I got all the stuff. I want to provide articles. I want to provide information to magazines and websites and stuff like that that cover drag racing. That's one big thing. Definitely adding to the team content creators, data collection and entry, I think is going to be a big deal moving forward. I don't know if I can handle all of that and handle video editing and handle posting and handle all the stuff that goes on with the website and things like that. So I think we'll add to that team, definitely add to the team, not add to that team, add to the team, which is right now mostly me, and then, grow from there. But my main goal is to just absolutely double the exposure that we've had in 2022. In 2022, we literally posted almost 3,000 times across all of the social media. I don't know. I have that number somewhere. It's 2,800 or 3,100 or something like that. I did it for our media kits for potential sponsors going into 2023. I mean, there's so much information that's out there. I feel like I can double it with just a little bit more work and a little bit more tweaking. So double the interviews, double the stories, double the artwork. I don't know. I said it earlier. I want to be the hardest working dude in DragNDrive. So I want people to be like, oh my God, when does that dude sleep? And the answer is never. Like, if your body gets used to 4 hours of sleep a night, you're ready for DragNDrive all the time, right?
Right. I mean, I tell you what, we talk daily, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you already are doing a ton of work, and I mean, I don't know how you're going to keep doing more, but
I don't know.
kudos. I mean, you're
We're
killing it
good.
with all this stuff.
Well, I'm going to get more efficient. That's what I keep telling myself. I'm going to get better at doing more stuff. That's what it is. I do want to answer this person's comment here. Yes, there's a $1,200 challenge. It's not a standalone class. You will fit into other classes that your car fits, but it is a $1,200 challenge from Questionable Performance Solutions. I love this. It's $1,200 with the car, like a $1,200 total budget. I mean, it's everything. And then we have that, and then we have a $5,000 challenge too. I think the $1,200 challenge is going to be, hey, it finished. That's how you're going to win. And then the $5,000 challenge, I think we're going to see some 9-second cars in that. So there, because there's no, like the $1,200 class, it's really a neat challenge. You can find more at the circuitdnd.com, but it's really a neat setup. I think that's what's going to be the most fun about going into 23 is we're going to see some interesting stuff. We're going to see people kind of, like the First Broke award, we're adding a scavenger hunt, rally hunt to the circuit, because we've got basically like Saturday night is a cruise night. We've only got 250 miles to drive. So to fill time, we're going to have a little longer stops. We're going to have more fun. It's going to be more laid back on Saturday to get to the checkpoint and do the cruise night. And then it's only 80 miles back to race on Sunday. So to kind of, have some fun. Simply Organic Soil has signed up. Carl Bright has the Big Block White El Camino. His company has signed up to sponsor the scavenger hunt. So $250 cash to the winner, a big custom trophy that I'm having done by Cold Hard Art, which I'm excited about, and just have some fun, take some pictures and all that kind of stuff. So Andrew asked, where do we find the details on those challenges? It is on the circuitdnd.com there, or on the circuit on Facebook. So it's the Circuit Charity with Horsepower is our main page, and then the circuit event. So pretty fun, dude. I appreciate the questions. I typically don't talk about myself, but I felt like those were really good to let folks know we haven't even got started. I say it all the time, but I haven't even got started. I don't know. We're taking DragNDrive mainstream. So
I love the questions. I think you and I have a lot of similar goals for 2023. So
yeah.
it's just good to talk about them and talk about what we want to do, what we want to see, and then
Yeah.
hear from everybody else. What do they want to see?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's going to be a lot of fun moving forward. What topics get conversations started and things like that, and how we can bring more people in. That's my ultimate goal, is how do we get, because going from, this is going to sound bad for the promoters that have done this for a long time, but typically all you've had to worry about is just posting that you're having an event and you sell out. It's not going to be like that moving forward. You're going to have to do fun stuff. You're going to have to be in front of people. You're going to have to go get folks. And there's a lot of promoters out there that are not used to that kind of work. A lot of the national level promoters are, but a lot of these regional guys, they want to host an event because they've never attended one, because they can't get into a national event. So I think once we see the circuit sold out in a day and a half, the Cruise and Lose sold out in a few hours, King of the Open Road is going to sell out. So I think as people want to start getting into those events, they're looking, they're trying to find something somewhere. And I don't know. We didn't even talk about 8th mile stuff. I think 8th mile racing is going to blow up for DragNDrive because there's so many 8th mile tracks.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're just kind of on a ramble fest now, man. We got there's like 11 minutes left here. Should we let these people go and let them have a night without us talking in their ear?
I mean, I asked all the questions I had. I think
Yeah.
a lot of good conversation tonight.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody that has made comments in the chat. I really appreciate all the obviously the compliments you gave, but also the real questions and all the stuff that comes in from the DragNDrive Addiction Facebook group. I think that's really, it keeps me on my toes. I wish you all could see some of the stuff I see on the back side, because there's, yeah, there'd be just a lot more arguing and dumb stuff if we let dumb stuff in. And I don't typically like to let dumb stuff in. So sometimes it slips through, but whatever. Well, cool,
Do you
man.
want
Well,
to
thank you very much. Yep.
do you want to give a preview of anything for next week, or gonna hold off on that?
So yeah, definitely. Let's talk about let's talk about homework for people. What should they do before next week's episode? Because you're going to be back as the guest host next week. Because we have we had already started making a ton of comments and conversation behind what you tell them what we're going to watch.
So next week we are going to talk about Finnegan's Garage, his movie parts 1 and 2. This was Hell Drag Week 2022. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. I've personally watched the part 1. I have not watched part 2 yet. I am definitely going to do that before next week, probably even this weekend, because
Yeah.
it is a very good watch. It talks about a lot of the things that maybe the drivers get to see during drag week, but maybe not people that aren't in the pits and don't see what goes on outside of just making passes and driving from track to track.
Well, and one thing that I really liked about part 1, and I'm about halfway through part 2, is it's literally the struggle that they're going through. Like, there's so many struggles that happen with that. They are just lucky they were in the parking lot. What's funny is, well, I'm not going to give it away, but guys, that's your homework before next week, is to watch both of those, because that'll take us at least an hour to probably cover. There's a lot of really good, like, Tony Angelo saying, "Hey, this is your chance to put LS in it." And he's like, "I'm not putting LS in it." And then they end up at this, like, the benefit to being around Indy, which is where they had shipped a bunch of parts, is, you're around top fuel guys and they have a guy help them. I mean, it's really a great episode. And one thing that I think is really cool is that I hope that the length of that video and the quality of it maybe will catch the eye of someone like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, because that's what we're lacking too, is a F1 style video, series in drag racing, period. They could follow John Force around and it would be a great show to show, because everybody just thinks, oh man, you mash the pedal down, you go to the end of the track. That we all know that's not what really happens. And especially for DragNDrive, it's really a great story, the entire story. And then to get to the end and just, I mean, not even going to talk about it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So definitely watch that. It is 4 hours for both parts total, about 2 hours per part. So definitely set a little bit of time aside to watch that.
Yeah. And again, next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back here. So, all right, dude, we'll tell everybody bye, and then I'm closing this down.
Hey, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Great conversation tonight. It's always fun getting to sit here and chat with everybody about stuff. And this was fun talking about recap of 2022 and the goals that Mike has and some of the goals that I personally have for 2023. So,
yep. All right, guys, if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to both channels. I mean, if you got to subscribe and follow here anyways, because we're the source for your news and entertainment in the DragNDrive community. And then 815 is he's coming. He's going to be on an event, and then it's going to be over. He's going to be the right hand man. All right, guys, see you. Thanks.